Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at ACHR Aviation. It is time for another update, and today we will be seeing the potential we have here for this 1-2 setup, which might have bottomed. We have pushed into the latest level of support, but we need to break above a certain area of resistance for a signal that we aren't going to extend any lower within an internal 5-wave structure in this area. Then we should be watching out for a slightly different interpretation of the white scenario. Now here on the larger time frame, we are tracking a couple of interpretations. In white we are looking for a possible impulse to be forming in this area, where we would be tracking a series of 1-2 setups. And in the previous video we had this area of support for the white interpretation that allowed us to still track continuation to new all-time highs, and not only that, actually to new all-time highs within a wave 3 to the upside. And then we also have the yellow interpretation, within which we are still tracking a larger 5-wave move to the upside, but it would be just a singular wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, and now we would be tracking the third wave to the upside, where in the yellow scenario we would be looking at a leading diagonal forming to the upside. Now it is important at this point to track both interpretations, because in white I would have actually needed to see here a large retracement. I couldn't really consider this to be the actual third wave to the upside, because this internal structure does look a lot more like an ABC pattern, where in yellow we can be tracking this movement to the upside as an ending diagonal. But if it was to be the actual wave 2 bottom here and to have already started the wave 3, well, we would have needed to see a 5-wave move to the upside in this area. We needed to see an impulse forming, and so far it is rather unlikely that we can actually track this movement, this initial push to the upside, as an impulse. So we need to be aware that we should be watching out for further extensions into the correction area in the case of the white scenario. Now, since we have actually formed here an additional top, it is rather likely than not actually that we should even allow here an extension of the wave 1, and it might be within a reinterpretation of this movement to the upside, but that would be perfectly acceptable. The only thing is that it is rather unusual to get double overshoots like this, where we were looking here at an A wave down, overshooting wave B, and then a C wave to the downside, but to get an overshoot and then another overshoot where we don't even have necessarily the clearest 5-wave structure in this area is rather unlikely, and it is probably preferred right now that we should be tracking a slightly different interpretation within the white scenario. Now, not much is changing in terms of support. We would only shift it slightly higher between the $70.6 level all the way down to the $4 level at the 78.6% retracement. But if we are to look now in the smaller time frame area, we would notice that we are still within the area of support for the yellow scenario. So right now we are still very much in play for starting a third wave to the upside, and this is highly available to us, especially as long as we hold here the area of support for the yellow interpretation. Then in that case, I would be looking here at a possible WXY pattern to have unfolded in the case of the yellow interpretation, because if we are to form this as a wave C, well, we would need to see actually an extra low to have a full pattern, and in that case we would very, very likely even invalidate the beginning, this 1-2 setup. We would break below the beginning of this wave 1 to the upside, which means that we would need to be prepared for even further downside. We would need to be prepared for an invalidation of the yellow scenario. Now I want to be perfectly clear. Even in the yellow scenario we can be tracking the same area of support that we would be tracking in the white scenario, but I am tracking here an alternative count. I am tracking a more bullish approach where we are already looking for a bottom in this area. That was the entire point for this area of support, and it was even more relevant previously when we had our start of the correction here in the wave 2, and we have started this movement to the upside. It has proven useful to be tracking this area of support in yellow, where anyone who would have used it previously would have had opportunity to actually take profits to near all-time high levels. Now, with that said, I am looking in both scenarios to have already formed a bottom or to form a low within the next move to the downside if we haven't already formed the bottom. And we haven't necessarily proven that we have formed it, so we need to be aware that yeah, we should be watching the resistance levels in this area for a third and a fourth level, yeah, a wave 4 resistance area that would provide us levels for an extension to the downside in a fifth wave. But to be tracking, to have a clear appearance of what we are tracking in that case, well, it would be an extension here in the orange interpretation, where in the wave C we are of course looking for a 5-wave structure to the downside, where so far we have the wave 1, 2 and 3 complete, and we would now be in the wave 4 correction. Now in this case we would be needing to look for the resistance area for such a pattern, and it would be for an impulse at this point at the levels between, let's see, so all the way up to the $8.7, that would be the maximum, the 50% retracement that I would really be tracking actively, this extension to the downside. But the resistance already starts at the $7.5 level, yeah, where we have already reached it. So in terms of getting into the resistance area, we have fulfilled the expectations. We don't need to form any additional highs to actually complete this correction, to actually consider that yeah, we have this wave 4 available to us. We can be looking for the fifth wave to the downside in the orange interpretation. So we can now actually even go here into the even shorter time frame, where again in the very short time frame it is extremely fragile and the scenarios do shift all the time. But if we are to actually check this count, this movement to the upside that has formed so far, I may even be able to track this either as a singular 1-2 setup, where we could even be in the third wave to the upside. Of course, we need the evidence, but for now, we could be looking for this active uptrend to have already started, as I was mentioning many times, yeah? We have pushed into the last level of support, we have found the support, and we are starting the reversal. Now, will it manage to break out of the resistance area? That is to be seen, because this movement to the upside could also form easily into, for example, an ABC structure, where yeah, we would only extend a little higher within this wave 4, and then still take us, the price would still take us lower into the fifth wave to complete the larger wave C. Now, with this said, these are the bullish interpretations that I am tracking in the short time frame and even in the mid time frame basically. But I do want to caution, on the large time frame, we always have the risk of having a full pattern on this chart, because we don't necessarily have to actually extend to new all-time highs, yeah? We could be looking here at a correction in an ABC structure, where we could have completed an internal pattern, where this would be a basically an ABC movement that could even take us to new all-time lows. That is not a preferred interpretation for me. Right now, I do prefer that we are looking for the bullish scenarios, and those can easily still be tracked, especially as long as we hold here the $4 level, yeah? That would be the point, breaking below the $4 level at the 78.6% retracement would be the point where I would start to wonder, well, is this structure going to fail fully? That would be actually quite worrisome, and I would need to be tracking that closely to determine what to look out for next. But for now, we are holding the levels of support. We are quite high into the retracement levels, at least from the larger time frame perspective support zone, yeah? Again, this applies for both scenarios. We could even allow this to be in orange, since orange we are tracking is available for both white and yellow. And yeah, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.